On 1st of February, during her union budget speech, which she now herself admits was very, very long, Finance Minister Nirmala Sitharaman promised all depositors of bankers that their money is safe. She in fact said that twice and later on announced how there was going to be an increase in the insurance limit for deposits from 1 lakh to 5 lakh rupees. Today, the Union Cabinet has put that into effect and also brought as many as 1,500 cooperative banks under the RBI's radar, and there is an amendment to the RBI Regulation Act. What does all of this mean? Obviously, and it's an educated guess that you're seeing these developments because of the crash of the PMC, the cooperative bank. Joining me to talk about this is Mythili Bhusnurmath, a consulting editor, in-house expert when it comes to do with anything regarding banking. Hi, Mythili. Good evening. Nayantara Rai here. You know, I remember when Nirmala Sitharaman made that announcement. At one time, I felt, thank God the depositors' money is safe. But when the insurance limit had been hiked, me, like many other Indians, felt, why is the government doing that? Does it know that perhaps some other cooperative bank is under threat and that's why it's increasing the insurance limit? What was your take on this?
No, well, I think there was a case to raise the insurance limit simply because the limit had not been raised for more than 2 decades. And if you compare our insurance limit with what it is in many other countries across the world, it's woefully inadequate. So definitely there was a case to raise that limit, and that she has done very wisely, I would say. But the only problem is that even if in the case of PMC, if you remember, when the limit was 1 lakh, the depositors never got their insurance money immediately. They had to wait, they had to fight, they had to cry, they had to protest. And only then the RBI, in a rather ham-handed fashion, I thought, kept progressively increasing the amount they could withdraw. So insurance limits, while it's good that you have raised it, the idea is that the moment a bank goes down under, the money should be paid out to the depositors immediately. So I think that is a procedural thing which the RBI should work on. And while the hike is welcome, the manner in which it is disposed of is also very important.
So we were just conspiracy theorists imagining the worst, and maybe because of the aftermath of the PMC Bank, because of the finance minister in Parliament during her budget speech is promising all depositors there's money safe, we should take that seriously.
Oh, well, absolutely. In any case, I think no central bank anywhere in the world really allows a large, systemically important bank to go down under. So that really is why they say banking, is a very unique kind of business. Because of the systemic implications, whether a bank is publicly or privately owned, a large bank will never be allowed to go down under. The depositor's money is always safe. And this is regardless of whether it's publicly or privately owned. So I don't think it was really because there's any threat to the bank. In fact, I think the Reserve Bank has done a very commendable job of ensuring that the depositors' money is safe, except for some small banks which have been allowed to go under. By and large, I think depositors in India have not suffered.
And what about today's development, Mythili, where, you've seen the Union Cabinet decide that as many as 1,500 cooperative banks would come under the purview of the Reserve Bank of India. This, I would imagine, would definitely mean more transparency, regular audits, more safety.
Well, frankly, while the government was bound to do this, I think the Reserve Bank here has bitten off far more than it can chew. Because even as supervision of the public sector banks, the private sector banks, foreign banks, left much to be desired. In fact, though the Reserve Bank has done a fairly commendable role as a central bank, the one huge weakness in the Reserve Bank has been its very poor supervision of banks. And at a time when it was not able to deliver even on the public sector banks, private banks and foreign banks, just look at what all it's added onto its plates. We've got the NBFCs, we've got the housing finance companies, and now 1,500 urban cooperative banks. So when the Reserve Bank is not able to deliver at all, I think this is one area where they really need to beef up their supervisory skills. Unfortunately, the Reserve Bank of India's internal bureaucracy does not really allow the bank to take lateral entrance. And the Reserve Bank's knowledge is largely theoretical. At a time when banking has changed so much, it's become so technology-driven. I think it's very important to remember the adage, set a thief to catch a thief. You need to get people who understand commercial banking, who've been there, done that. So the Reserve Bank really needs to beef up the supervisory department, ideally maybe spin it off altogether and not keep it as a department of the Reserve Bank of India. It has very little to really commend itself when it comes to supervision. So this is one area why I think it really has far too much on its plate to deliver, given the additional existing strength that it has in its supervisory department, strength as well as knowledge.
Let's hope that the Reserve Bank of India also beefs up the back end, the infrastructure, the support staff that it needs, as well as, of course, get the expertise to do all of this. Mythili, I'm going to make this my final question. Since the fall of the PMC, there's been this large fear about the health of cooperative banks across the country, the alleged nexus that might also exist between politicians as well as cooperative banks. Are you expecting a massive cleanup exercise?
Well, I think it would be optimistic to say massive cleanup exercise. There has been a cleanup exercise going on over the years. So the Reserve Bank did set up a task force. They did sign some memorandum of association agreement, with various state governments, and there has been some attempt. But clearly, where politics is involved, it's, I think, almost naive to say it will be perfectly clean or perfectly easy. So even now that the Reserve Bank has been given new powers to supersede the board, etc., of the urban cooperative banks, this has to be done in consultation with the state governments. So we know what that means. So it's not going to be easy. And I think the Reserve Bank's alternative or telling cooperative banks that you can become small finance banks, that might be a better way to go. But given the fact that many politicians like to have a say in urban cooperative banks, I'm not sure how easy it's going to be.
With that, Mythili, I'd like to thank you for joining us on this edition of the India Development Debate, for decoding these developments and explaining to the viewers about the safety and the future of the cooperative banks. And with that, we're going to take a short commercial break, but stay tuned. You're watching this Wednesday's edition of the India Development Debate with me, Nayantara Rai.